Right now, on 5 on your side at 10.
Dragged by a car in the Grove and left more than scarred.
Upon impact, he shattered my left femur into 6+ pieces, and that's a very tough bone to break.
2 months later, we hear from the 23-year-old and what she sees for her future. Tow truck trouble. The man caught in the act while trying to swipe South City cars from people's yards. Solidarity and resistance captured on canvas.
We had no idea that the response would be so overwhelming.
How artists responded to the death of Michael Brown Jr. from the streets of Ferguson and beyond. But first,
drenching rain is moving away from St. Louis this evening. Why you can rest easy overnight and why Sunday is another Weather First Weather Alert Day.
And we're in weather alert tonight and looking at a storm system that could make its way to the region. Here is a look at that system earlier today. Just a few states over, tornadoes across Nebraska could lead to severe weather here. Look at that video. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Jackson. The bi-state is still seeing some heavy rainfall, and there may be more storms coming Sunday. Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell is here with a look at our Weather First forecast.
You know, it has really been a very rough day weather-wise for areas to our west and northwest. All things considered, it's been pretty quiet around here, but you go up into Omaha and up to Des Moines, and it has been a rough afternoon and a very rough evening for the folks up there. We've had the rain, yes, and still coming down for some of us right now, but the main area of rain is pushing away from St. Louis, at least for this route, sliding to the north and east. Looking to the north and west, there are the lines of thunderstorms that worked out of Nebraska, now into Iowa, even in the Des Moines metro area. A tornado touching down within the last hour or so. These are all the reports of tornadoes and winds up in these areas across Iowa and into eastern portions of Nebraska. Some pretty impressive tornado damage coming out of Omaha, which is very sad to see. Fortunately, it doesn't seem like there's been a lot of injury reports that we've heard so far, which is good news, but boy, rough for those folks there. Our rain has been drenching this evening in St. Louis with rumbles of thunder, but nothing really severe. Rainfall amounts, yeah, just in the last hour or two, many of us have picked up close to an inch of rainfall. Lambert coming in with about 7/10 of an inch. So this rain is diminishing right now. As we go into tomorrow, maybe a spot shower or thunderstorm, but the strong storm chances won't return, it doesn't look like, on any kind of widespread basis until Saturday, make that Sunday evening. We will talk more about that in a few minutes, Kelly.
All right, Scott, and stay up to date on the latest weather from 5 on your side on our website or the 5+ streaming app, or you can also text the word weather to 314-425-5355, and we'll send you the link.
So my right arm pretty much got rubbed off across the street. It got pulled and pulled. The way it got pulled, it meant that my elbow dislocated and I had less than half of my forearm left. I'd severed all the arteries.
A woman who was dragged underneath a car for several blocks in the Grove neighborhood speaks on camera for the first time today since that day in February. Ellie Bentley talks about that night that changed her life and what happens next. Annie Kroll joins us after sitting down with the 23-year-old about the surgeries and the support she still needs. A long road to recovery, Annie.
Kelly, absolutely. As you partially heard, Ellie Bentley broke both of her legs after getting hit by a car on February 25th and then dragged underneath it for about 3 blocks near the Platypus Bar. Originally from Bingham in the UK, she moved to St. Louis to be with her now ex-boyfriend, City SC soccer player Indiana Vasilev. It's a relationship and an evening that Ellie can't forget.
On February 25th, the shooting near Manchester Road wouldn't just change the lives of those involved, but of someone hiding from the shots.
One of the bullets went past me, so I obviously ran.
Ellie Bentley ducking for cover between 2 cars.
The driver never asked me to move out the way. He never ushered to the side or anything. He looks at me and then just completely puts his foot to the gas.
Police say that driver was Deontay Taylor.
So I'm sandwiched between the floor and the bottom of the car. My hope was initially, if I curled tight into a ball as flat as I could, that perhaps I would fall under the car, and I hoped and I prayed, and unfortunately that didn't happen.
After several blocks, Ellie was ejected from the car in front of Platypus Bar.
I'm very lucky about that, and they called 911, and I'm very aware that I'm bleeding out. I can feel it, And I encouraged them to lie on me and wait for the ambulances.
Once she was in the hospital is when one of her friends, Lauren Coleman, heard what happened.
So I was just so upset and, sorry, makes me a little bit emotional to talk about, but yeah, I was just so worried for her. But after, sorry, just a little bit.
Through her tears, Lauren is still amazed at how Ellie has bounced back from her life as a physics and math student overseas.
When you look at the photos of you and you're at graduation or you're in like these beautiful ball gowns, I'm sure you've probably looked at some of those photos or maybe looked at some of the coverage. Does that kind of stir any memories of like, oh my goodness, I would have never thought this is what my life looked like?
I look back at where I was then and the trajectory I saw my life travelling in. And obviously somebody's tried to take that from me. Although they weren't successful. And I guarantee that I'm going to still achieve those same goals and possibly do better. I'm going to be more motivated.
Lauren and Ellie planning to stay in St. Louis and move in together despite the accident.
I've been amazed by the warmth and just the sense of community that I've felt here. And I love St. Louis for that. I love the arts, I love the culture, I love the people.
Ellie now facing more than $1 million in medical bills, her attorney Ben Tobin says, limited to the money he's able to get back for her with the value of Taylor's car insurance.
That's not even going to put a dent in, what her damages actually are in this case, and no amount of money is ever going to make her whole.
As Ellie continues to heal, she is planning to have several more surgeries, especially on her right hand and arm that she still doesn't have use of. Surgeries that can last up to 11 hours, she tells me, which may happen over the next 2 years. If you'd like to help contribute to Ellie's medical expenses, there is a link to a GoFundMe page on our website at ksdk.com.
Thank you, Annie. Tonight, a man is arrested after police say he stole cars from a South City neighborhood using a tow truck. It happened in the Dutchtown community on 2 separate occasions near Grand Boulevard and Learman Avenue. A quick-thinking neighbor says it was about to happen again until she confronted him. Brent Solomon picks up the story from here.
He had to be stopped.
This watchful neighbor asked we not identify her. She was on the lookout after getting word someone stole 2 cars from her neighborhood this month. She didn't think something was right when she saw this tow truck arriving back to Learman Avenue.
He had already been here twice. He had been here 3 days before and stole 2 cars.
Watch as she confronts the man in a tow truck labeled C&J Transport.
He told me that he was a city tow.
She didn't buy it because she had just been in touch with city police about the last 2 thefts. That's when she called 911, prompting the driver to take off. Friday, police identified that driver as 47-year-old Wendell Bryant. They got word he would be at the federal courthouse to meet with his probation officer. That's when they showed up there, handcuffed him, and charged him with felony theft and property damage. One of the cars he's accused of stealing was damaged in the process.
Belongings are in there. Her baby's walker and her belongings are in there.
One of the other cars, she says, belongs to a nearby church.
You stole from a peace center that helps thousands of immigrants get their license. I think that's how he makes his living.
Brent Solomon, 5 on your side.
Police say Bryan admitted to the crimes. Court records show he was on probation after pleading guilty to bank fraud in 2021. New developments today out of the Thomas Kinworthy trial. He is accused of killing St. Louis police officer Tamaris Bohannon and wounding another officer in 2020. The star witness for the defense, a forensic psychologist, was questioned for more than 3 hours. Dr. Patricia Zaff detailed Kinworthy's childhood abuse at the hands of his parents. She says this kind of abuse led to the mental illness that meets the criteria to find Kinworthy not guilty by reason of mental defect. Prosecutors plan to present a rebuttal witness who disagrees with the assessment. The trial is expected to last until May 3rd, but is running a bit ahead of schedule. A St. Louis County retired judge is finding a new way to help victims of domestic violence. With his expertise, he has created a nonprofit to assist people filing orders of protection. Justina Coronel takes a closer look into this newly formed program.
Dedicated to decreasing domestic violence, these two aim to do that. The attorneys are hard at work, to give victims and survivors representation and hope.
I knew that I wanted to do something that pertained to domestic violence advocacy.
St. Louis County retired Judge Michael Burton created the nonprofit St. Louis Survivors Legal Support.
St. Louis Survivors Legal Support is saving lives.
Polly Katz is the director of legal advocacy.
So now working at St. Louis Survivors Legal Support, where we can intervene much earlier in the cycle of violence and try to help people before the worst happens, for me is really very empowering.
Her new role still fulfills that passion.
What St. Louis Survivors Legal Support does is represent victims of intimate partner violence when they are seeking an order from the court that will protect them from their abuser.
Burton created this after finding some flaws.
I would read in the files some significant allegations, and in so many instances, the petitioner, the victim that was filing for an order of protection, would not appear in court.
He learned 80% of cases in St. Louis City and County are dismissed for several reasons, and almost all of the 20% who show up lack an attorney.
If someone were in that position to be talking about the most traumatic situation in their life, it's bad enough that the abuser is 10 feet away, but the fact that that abuser has counsel is very intimidating, and many of these folks did not appear.
That's where the organization steps in with free representation to uplift the petitioners and properly fill out the paperwork.
If someone has support, they're going to be much more likely to appear in court, and that's exactly what we found out.
They say it's more than a piece of paper.
It can grant custody. It can require supervised visitation if the parties have children in common.
And it's not just these two doing the heavy lifting.
So at this time, we have more than 150 volunteer lawyers.
The program is carried by support to show victims they're not alone.
Orders of protection do work when they're enforced. We've seen people turn their lives around.
Justina Cornell, 5 on Your Side.
The organization also provides free training for the attorneys and volunteers. They also hope to raise funds to hire staff full-time. For ways to help or to find resources, visit ksdk.com and go to the As Seen on TV section.